It was just past midnight when my phone buzzed. I groggily sat up, squinting at the screen. It was a call from my roommate, Alex. Normally, I wouldn't answer a call at this hour, especially not from him, but something about the way his name lit up on my screen made my stomach tighten. I answered, my voice hoarse. "Hey, you awake?" he whispered. There was this tension in his voice, a kind of nervous energy I'd never heard from him before. I blinked at the ceiling, trying to shake off the grogginess. "Yeah, what's up?" I mumbled. There was a long pause. I could hear faint shuffling on his end, like he was pacing. Then, suddenly, he spoke. I don't know how to say this. You have to promise you won't freak out." My heart started racing. Alex wasn't the type to dramatize things. Even when we had minor emergencies, like the time the heater broke in winter, he'd stay calm. But now, this was different. My mind started spinning through possibilities. Did something happen outside? Was someone in the apartment? I felt this icy knot in my stomach. "Alex, what's going on?" I asked, trying to sound casual, though my voice was trembling slightly. I think someone's been in our apartment while we were asleep," he said. His voice was barely audible, almost a whisper, like speaking any louder would summon danger. I froze. My apartment had never felt more claustrophobic. The walls suddenly seemed closer, the shadows deeper. I tried to steady my breathing. "What do you mean?" "Like a break-in." He didn't answer immediately. Instead, I heard the faint click of a lock, and then something that made my blood run cold. A low, strange sound, like someone dragging something across the floor. My pulse spiked, and I gripped the edge of the bed. "Alex, what the hell is that?" I whispered. There was another pause, longer this time. He swallowed audibly, and then said something that I'll never forget. "I don't think it's just an intruder. I think it's someone we know." The words hung in the darkness, heavier than anything I'd felt in a long time. Someone we know, in our apartment, in the middle of the night. My chest tightened, my thoughts racing. How could that even be possible? Who would do this and why? I tried to recall anyone who could have a reason, but nothing fit. Then, just as I thought I might get a little clarity, Alex's voice dropped even lower, almost a hiss, and I think they were leaving a message for us. A chill ran down my spine. A message. For us. In our own home. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. My mind screamed to hang up, run, hide. But curiosity, fear, and something darker kept me frozen to the spot. And in that moment, I realized whatever this was, it wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Alex and I had been roommates for almost a year. We met through a mutual friend during college and clicked immediately. He was calm, methodical, the kind of person who could organize chaos into something manageable. I was, well, the opposite. Messy, impulsive, easily spooked. Somehow, our differences balanced each other out. Or at least, they had until that night. Our apartment was nothing special. A small two-bedroom in a slightly run-down building. Cheap rent, squeaky floors, the kind of place that made you think twice before inviting strangers over. Yet, despite its flaws, it had always felt safe. At least, that's what I'd thought. Life with Alex had been comfortable, predictable. We had our routines, morning coffee, commuting together to work, occasional nights binging TV shows. He kept to himself, mostly, but we had a rhythm. I knew when he was stressed, when something was off. He didn't have to say a word. That night, though, none of that comfort mattered. The memory of his voice, tense and trembling, stayed with me. It wasn't just the call itself, it was the warning behind it. Something had shifted. Something unseen had entered our space, and the man I trusted more than anyone had sounded scared. In the week leading up to that night, I remembered little oddities. Small things I'd brushed off. A door left slightly ajar, though I swore I'd locked it. My keys on the counter when I knew I'd put them in my bag. A faint smell of something burnt lingering in the hallway. Nothing concrete, nothing alarming enough to mention. But now, piecing it together, it all seemed like a warning sign I'd ignored. Alex had his own quirks too. He was private about his personal life, even from me. He got calls late at night sometimes, disappearing into his room to talk in whispers. I'd never asked who it was. I trusted him, sure, but there was always this wall he kept between us, a part of him I wasn't supposed to see. Maybe that wall had just cracked, or maybe I was about to see something I shouldn't. I tried to calm myself, thinking logically. Maybe it was nothing, just a prank, a mistake, someone in the wrong apartment. But then I remembered the sound Alex had whispered about, dragging across the floor. That wasn't careless. It was deliberate. Someone had been here, and not just passing through. I kept replaying the moments in my mind, trying to make sense of it. Who could it be? A former friend? Someone we'd wronged without realizing? And why leave a message? Messages weren't just random. They were intentional, meant to be found, meant to provoke. As I sat on my bed, gripping my blanket like a lifeline, I felt a creeping sense of inevitability. Whatever had happened that night wasn't just an accident or a coincidence. It was the beginning of something that was going to drag both Alex and me into a place we weren't ready for. And just as I was about to reach for my phone to call him back, there was a sudden, sharp knock on my bedroom door, soft, deliberate, and almost familiar. I froze at the sound of the knock, my heart hammering like it might burst out of my chest. I wasn't sure whether to answer or stay silent, hoping whoever it was would go away. The knock came again, this time faster, sharper, more insistent. I realized it wasn't just at my door. Somewhere else in the apartment, I heard a faint shuffle, a quiet scraping sound that made my stomach twist. Grabbing my phone, I dialed Alex's number, my hands shaking. It rang twice before going to voicemail. I could hear him whispering my name from somewhere distant in the line, but then the line went dead. Panic set in, cold and heavy. My mind raced. Was he hiding? Was he hurt? Or worse, was he part of this? I tiptoed toward the door, every nerve alert, listening for any sound. The apartment felt alive in the wrong way. Shadows stretched across the walls. The hum of the refrigerator sounded like a distant, mocking voice. I could barely breathe, but I couldn't stop moving. I had to know what was happening. Peeking through the crack in the door, I saw nothing at first, just the dim hallway light flickering. And then I saw a shadow moving, subtle, deliberate, like someone was crouching and trying not to be seen. My stomach dropped. It was someone in the apartment, and they knew I was there. I swallowed hard, trying to keep calm, but my body betrayed me. I took a cautious step back, and that's when I heard it, a whisper, low and chilling, coming from the living room. You shouldn't have heard that call. My blood ran cold. That voice, it was unmistakable, familiar, yet distorted somehow. I couldn't place it immediately, but the words made everything worse. Someone had been watching us, listening, and now they knew I knew. I backed away from the door, my mind spinning. Questions collided violently in my head. How long had they been here? Why my apartment? Was Alex involved, or was he a victim too? And most terrifying of all, what was the message they had left for us? Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from the living room, like something heavy hitting the floor. I froze again, my chest tightening. I knew I had to find Alex, had to figure out what was going on, but a part of me screamed to run, to leave everything behind. And then, as I stood there, paralyzed, I realized the worst part. I wasn't just alone in the apartment anymore. Whatever this was, it was waiting, watching, and it wasn't going anywhere. I couldn't move. My eyes darted around the apartment, searching for the source of the noise, every nerve screaming that danger was close. The shadows on the walls seemed to shift with a life of their own, stretching and bending as if the apartment itself were alive. I pressed myself against the wall, trying to be invisible, while the faint scraping and thudding continued somewhere ahead. Alex's voice had completely disappeared. Every instinct told me he was in trouble, but I couldn't find him. The thought of going into the living room, where the noises were loudest, made my stomach knot with fear. And yet, I knew I couldn't stay frozen forever. Whoever, or whatever, was in our home wasn't just a stranger. They were deliberate, careful, patient, and terrifyingly clever. I gripped the edge of the counter in the kitchen, steadying myself, and slowly inched toward the hallway. The smell hit me first, a faint, acrid odor, like burnt coffee and something metallic. My mind scrambled. What could that be? My fear clawed at me, making it hard to think, but I forced myself forward. Every step echoed loudly, and I flinched at the slightest creak of the old wooden floor beneath my feet. Then I heard it, a soft laugh, almost a whisper, but unmistakable. Familiar. My blood ran cold. Whoever was here knew me, knew Alex, knew exactly how to make us panic. I froze, straining to listen, my body taut with tension. Then another sound, a low scrape, as if someone had dragged something heavy across the carpet. I realized with a jolt, it wasn't random. The noises were leading me somewhere, guiding me, almost daring me to follow. My mind screamed to run, to hide, but I couldn't. Something inside me demanded to know the truth. I crept closer, each heartbeat like a hammer in my ears. The hallway stretched longer than it should have, the shadows growing darker with each step. When I reached the living room, my stomach dropped. The furniture was slightly rearranged, a small lamp knocked over, and on the coffee table, something glinted in the dim light. I couldn't make it out immediately, my eyes refusing to focus. And then I saw it, a single object, out of place, deliberately positioned. A chill ran through me as I recognized it. Not entirely, just enough to make my throat dry, my hands tremble. I could almost hear Alex's warning in my head. You have to promise you won't freak out. I wanted to scream, to call out his name, but my voice caught in my throat. Something in that room was waiting for me to react, testing me, daring me to make a mistake. I took a cautious step forward, and that's when I realized the person who had been whispering, laughing, and leaving hints wasn't just nearby. They were watching me right now. And then I froze completely, because what I saw next, the object, the room, the faint reflection in the dark corner, made me question everything I thought I knew about Alex, about our apartment, about what was real. It wasn't just fear anymore. It was something far worse. I stepped closer, my eyes finally adjusting to the dim light, and that's when I saw it. Not a stranger, not an intruder, but Alex. Or at least something that looked like him. He, or the figure, was crouched near the coffee table, pale, rigid, and holding my phone. The screen was cracked, but it still glowed, displaying a series of text messages I had never sent. Messages I didn't even know existed. My stomach lurched. Alex, I whispered, my voice barely audible. The figure turned slowly, and I froze. It wasn't him. Not really. His eyes, they weren't his. Dark, hollow, almost inhuman. And the smirk on his face, my Alex's smirk, was wrong. Deliberate. Mocking. I stumbled backward, hitting the wall, and realized with a jolt that the person, or entity, had been inside our apartment the whole time, studying us, mimicking us, planting little hints, orchestrating everything. Then a whisper echoed from the corner behind me, chilling and familiar. You thought it was just a call, but it was always more than that. And just like that, the line between reality and something else blurred completely. I didn't know who I could trust, or if I'd ever feel safe in my own home again. I couldn't think. My mind was spinning, trying to process the impossible. The figure, Alex's face twisted in that unnatural smirk, stood up slowly, dragging my eyes along every movement, deliberate, calculated. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might explode. I had to act. Instinct took over. I grabbed the nearest object, a heavy lamp, and swung it toward the figure. It dodged effortlessly, moving with an unnatural grace, like it knew every step I would take before I even thought of it. Fear clawed at me, but I forced myself forward, toward the hallway, toward the source of all this chaos. Alex, stop. This isn't you. I screamed, my voice raw, cracking under the weight of panic. For a moment, it froze. The figure's head tilted slightly, just like the real Alex always did when he was thinking. But then the eyes, those hollow, inhuman eyes, narrowed. And in a voice that was eerily similar to Alex's, it said, "It's always been me. Watching, learning, waiting." Everything clicked at once. The late-night calls, the whispers, the messages, it wasn't someone from outside. It was something inside our home, using Alex as a mask. And then, horrifyingly, I realized the real Alex was nowhere in sight. He had been trapped, hidden, or worse, replaced. I lunged forward, ready to confront it, and that's when I saw a small movement near the couch. My real Alex, alive, terrified, crouched behind it, his hand reaching out to me. "Go run," he gasped. I hesitated for a split second. That split second was enough. The figure lunged, faster than I thought possible, and slammed against me. Pain shot through my shoulder as I fought back, swinging wildly. And then, a loud crash, a scream, and silence. I scrambled to the couch, finding Alex safe but shaking, pointing at the figure lying on the floor. I stared, my brain struggling to comprehend. But as relief washed over me, I noticed something chilling. The figure's mask had cracked, revealing not Alex, but my own face staring back at me. I froze. The thing wasn't just mimicking Alex. It was learning, adapting, and it knew me. The morning light crept through the blinds, soft and almost reassuring, but the apartment still felt wrong. I sat on the couch with Alex, both of us exhausted, our bodies trembling from adrenaline, fear, and disbelief. The figure was gone, or at least it wasn't in sight. The broken lamp lay in pieces on the floor, and the faint smell of burnt coffee still lingered, a ghost of the chaos that had filled the night. Alex finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. I think it was using me, pretending to be me. It knew our routines, our habits, maybe even our thoughts. He shivered, wrapping his arms around himself. I nodded slowly, my own hands shaking. And the calls, the messages, everything it made us see. It was testing us, learning from us. We sat in silence, both of us trying to process the impossible. The fear was still there, thick in the air, but so was relief. Somehow, we had survived. Somehow, we were still us, still real. I glanced around the apartment, half expecting to see another shadow flicker, another sign of something waiting just out of sight. Do you think it's really gone? I asked. Alex shook his head slowly. I don't know. But whatever it was, it's different now. We know it's out there, and we know it can adapt. We just have to be careful. We spent the next few hours checking every corner of the apartment, locking doors, securing windows. We talked quietly, trying to remind ourselves we were safe, that we weren't losing our minds. And slowly, the panic that had gripped us began to fade, replaced by exhaustion and a cautious hope. Even as I left that night, stepping into the bright morning sun, I felt a strange kind of gratitude. Fear had nearly broken us, but it had also reminded us of something essential: our bond, our trust, our ability to face the unimaginable together. Alex and I weren't just roommates anymore. We were allies, survivors, bound by something no one else could ever understand. And yet, as I closed the door behind me, I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever had visited us wasn't done. That night had left a mark, a shadow lingering just out of sight, a warning that the world wasn't as safe or predictable as I had believed. I knew one thing for certain: we would never ignore the small, strange signs again. We would always listen, always watch, and always protect each other. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough to face whatever came next. But as I walked down the street, sunlight warming my face, I couldn't help but glance over my shoulder one last time. For a brief second, I thought I saw a familiar shadow move in the apartment window. Someone, or something, watching, waiting, always learning. And I knew, deep down, that the story wasn't truly over.